The following program deals with a controversial
subject.
The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation.
The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
the top talents in the comic book business are here to tell everything they know.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Tuesday night here on Beyond Wednesdays for the Industry of Comics show. We got the whole crew with us tonight, and we have a big story to talk about. Hey, Dennis, I'm going to mute you and just unmute you whenever you do your stuff. So the craziest ball has dropped in the Diamond distribution bankruptcy debacle, as we'll call it now. This is absolutely crazy. This is something I don't think any of us could have foreseen at all when this was starting. I think at some point when we first heard about the Diamond sale, we thought, okay, we're going to be talking about this for maybe 3 weeks. What is it going on now? Like 4 months, something like that? 5 months?
4 months. Yeah, since January.
It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. So, for people out there that might not know about what's going on, we got to go over a timeline of all the craziness. There is a timeline for all this stuff. For those of you guys that might not know, kind of what's going on with this whole thing. Back in January, Diamond Distribution filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And then around the end of March, we had...
Actually, Brian, sorry to interrupt. In December, this show started reporting that there were a lot of strange occurrences that we thought might be leading to that.
Amen. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then in January, they filed for bankruptcy. And then in the end of March, they held the bankruptcy auction, and Alliance Entertainment comes in and out of nowhere puts in a bid and wins, quote unquote, wins the bid. We all thought they were going to win the bid. The original bid was around like 75, 80 million, something like that. 72 million. So then out of nowhere, Diamond's owners said, nah, we're going to take a lower bid. We think we like a lower bid better. And the courts had to rule on it. Okay. And at the same time the courts had to rule on it, Alliance throws in a counter lawsuit, right, to Diamond to enforce that winning bid. And then in April, the beginning of April, the bankruptcy court reaffirms that Alliance is the winner. And we think it's all over at this point. We think it's done. A few days ago, Alliance Entertainment sends a termination notice canceling the purchase agreement of all the assets of Diamond Comic Distribution. Ladies and gentlemen, what the fuck? What do you guys... Let's get into this conversation about what caused it, what we're hearing from, because we don't know. We haven't heard anything from any of the people from Alliance. That's kind of been cut off for reasons we understand. There's a lot at stake here, and we were kind of lucky to have that initial interview. But I think that kind of made them realize.
And we might add also that the only time Alliance has spoken with anybody, it was on this show, and that almost torpedoed the entire deal 2 months ago. So I understand if they don't want to come on and discuss anything further.
Totally. 100%, man. You couldn't have said it better. So basically, yeah. Go ahead, Jesse.
Oh, no. You guys talk.
Okay. So very interesting. But here's what's also interesting. What are the reasons that people are saying that this is happening? And there's some major bombshells in this whole thing. One of them, being the biggest bombshell in my opinion, is that Diamond knew about their Wizards of the, and this isn't what we're hearing from anybody on the inside. This is what we're reading from articles that have been put out by ICV2 and Heidi McDonald and Bleeding Cool and Rich Johnston. They've done a great job, both of them kind of, giving weekly information on this stuff. But the crazy part about what we're reading is that there was this Wizards of the Coast deal that was ending. And Wizards of the Coast had decided, and Diamond were ending their relationship, and Alliance didn't know about it. Is that what I'm hearing and what I'm kind of reading?
Once again, you're mixing up the word alliances. Just real quick, I just want to AENT, Alliance Entertainment, when trying to purchase Diamond and Alliance Games.
Oh no, I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Alliance Games. I'm talking about AENT. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because when you said Alliance twice there, and I just wanted to make sure everybody knew it was two different alliances we were talking about.
Oh no,
so
I wasn't even talking about the Alliance Games. I'm talking about the Wizards of the Coast stuff. Which is that the same as Alliance Games?
Okay, no. So what happens?
That's who the deal was with.
Yes. So, well, the deal is technically with Diamond, because if you remember, Diamond actually sells Magic. They pretend to sell Magic boxes on Diamond's website through previews.
Yeah, but they don't do pre-releases. So Alliance does the pre-releases, and then they feed Diamond the merchandise to sell on.
Correct. But the deal is Wizards of the Coast and Diamond have a deal to supply Diamond and Alliance with Magic the Gathering and other WotC product. That deal, according to all paperwork, was null and void at the end of 2024.
Yep.
And then basically this was when we were in the process of saying there's some weird shit going on at Diamond, folks. This might be leading to something bad coming up in 2025. January 2025 comes around and they're like, hey guys, chapter 11, we need to get out of this. We're going to sell off some assets. They knew. And I have to believe that Alliance Games and Diamond Entertainment or Diamond Company both knew that they no longer were going to have a relationship with Wizards of the Coast, or that it was going to take a lot of manipulating to get it back.
But the problem with that is that AENT, Alliance Entertainment, didn't know that. They were under the assumption that when they bought the entire, all of the assets of Diamond, they were getting a Wizards of the Coast deal in that. And
not just that. Oh, not just that, Brian. It's very important for the retailers that relied on Alliance Games and Diamond Comics to supply them with all of that WotC Magic product. It was incumbent on Diamond and Alliance Games to tell those retailers, hey guys, you might need to find a new primary distributor for your Magic because the next pre-release we might not have the product. You might need to prepare ahead. They were fully willing to F every retailer in the A for whatever product they were going to need for pre-releases starting in May, June, July. They were more than it, by not giving them that advance notice, they were going to screw those retailers.
Well, also think about it from AENT's point of view. Wizards of the Coast accounts for about 25% of Diamond's game and toy revenue, about what, $40 million of the revenue.
All revenue.
That is, that's a big chunk. And if you find out that you're not getting that, if that's ending, that changes things.
So the problem that you have with Wizards of the Coast, their contract ended December 24th, 2024. And they decided to stay on for a couple more months. And that really, they should have just ended that contract. They were trying to be nice and say, listen, we'll go a couple more months. And I think what happened was Diamond said, they're staying on for a while. So technically, we still have Wizard of the Coast. Full disclosure is very tough, right? Because full disclosure is, tell me about the I'm trying to think the best example. Tell me about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I tell you about the organization and all of that, and then your quarterback ends up being a druggie. And I turn around and I say, well, you didn't give me full disclosure. Well, you just asked about the team. You really didn't ask about the player. And I think in this case, it's the same thing. Wizard of the Coast goes beyond their contract in good faith, right? In good faith. And what happens is Diamond does not disclose it because of that.
It's worse, Jesse. It's actually worse. When AENT asked to see the paperwork on all of their contracts, Diamond Management, Alliance Games Management, gave them redacted forms that redacted out the expiration dates, which were already probably post-dated that, so when they're like, hey, can we see all of your contracts for Pokemon and Magic and this
Sure.
and when the ones that show up for WotC all have redacted expiration dates, which are past the point of expiration, and I think from what I'm reading in the Alliance, the AENT lawsuit, that is what they consider to be the fraud of the situation. And they used that word, fraud.
Oh, yeah.
That was an attempt, in their opinion, to defraud the new buyers.
And AENT is now suing Diamond for that contract fraud, right? In another lawsuit, all over the Wizards of the Coast stuff. And it's very interesting. Heidi, both Heidi and Rich have done a really good job reporting on this. And the over on Rich's site, there was a very interesting information about what AENT felt and what they thought. You know what I mean?
Well, and here's another thing, Brian. We were talking about this, and it occurred to me, if you were Diamond's management and you have these guys coming in that just want Alliance, and they're willing to pay for everything, but Alliance is 3/4 of what it looks like it is. But these other guys who already have a WotC account and who are offering you the sun and the moon to take a lesser bid, could this have also been, and this is total speculation, but could this have been why they wanted to take that lesser bid? Because there would be way less scrutiny when they discovered that WotC was not part of that deal?
Yeah. Well, here's something interesting. Real quick, here's something very interesting. This is from Bleeding Cool and Rich's report, and I just want to read this real quick because this was the bombshell to me. Rich writes, AENT states that they only learned of WotC's decision not to renew the agreement on the 17th of April when Diamond's counsel informed AENT's counsel. AENT states that on both the 6th of March and on the 9th of April, Diamond claimed their vendor relationships, including with WotC, were strong and stable, and that Diamond knew that these representations were false when made or were recklessly indifferent to the truth of the matter. In fact, at the time of the representations were made, the defendants actively concealed facts in their position contradicting those representations. Defendants intended that plaintiffs would rely on such representations as to secure tens of millions of dollars above what the debtor's assets would otherwise be worth. And the crazy thing about all this is that they learned this over a voice call with all the other parties involved, and Diamond in the voice call did not deny it, which is very interesting. You're on mute.
One of these articles I read actually stated that they feigned ignorance.
Yep.
And right it's just like, we don't have a WotC contract. What do you mean? We're outraged. WotC, how dare you not give us a contract for our new purchasers, AENT? And then the next day they said, okay, you know what? Hey, it's possible you guys don't know, but let's get everybody on a call here. And then basically it was like the WotC AENT Diamond call, all of them together. And WotC's like, you got that letter in December, and we gave you that 90-day extension, and we told you there'd be no extensions past that. Why are you pretending that you didn't know this? Okay. I guess. Yeah, we did know. We did know the whole time. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, and ignorance. You can't use ignorance as an excuse for not knowing something in a bankruptcy. That's not going to work with the judge. So
it would be different also, Jesse, if we didn't also get in this new barrage over the last 48 hours that Diamond's upper management hasn't been filling out its monthly expense reports as required by the bankruptcy laws to explain all the money coming in and all the money going out month to month for the last 3 months. And they haven't filed those.
Right. And so you need to back up before you talk about that. So when you go into bankruptcy, you sit in front of your lawyer, and your lawyer goes through everything and making sure that, number one, you know how much this is going to cost and the rules that you have to abide by. And one of the first rules you learn is they say, listen, you're going to be assigned a trustee, and your trustee is your best friend. He is your only saving grace. And so this is what you have to do. You have to fill out the monthlies. There's no excuses. All right. You have to fill out the monthlies. Your budgets have to be made 90 days out. You're not supposed to go over by a penny. Now, this trustee did come back on the bonuses, and he was overruled on that. But the notion is that they've missed 3 months. So I personally would say, why did the trustee not say, where is January's report? Okay, it's February. Where is the February report?
We don't know that didn't happen, though, Jesse.
Well, it would have happened because it would have been laid out in the courts, and
right.
That would have been mentioned in an article. What he's saying is
that we got to go back. Let's rotate back just one more step before the step that you started at, Jesse.
Yep.
Chapter 11 bankruptcy is entirely, hey, all the wolves are at the gates. We need to continue to operate and figure out a way to get out of this. And the courts are like, yes, okay, we agree that you're a viable enough company that we would like to see survive. We are going to freeze all of your creditors and allow you to continue. However, we want to know what you're spending the money on while you continue. And that's why you have these steps. Like, okay, we understand that you need to keep the lights on in this office. You need to keep the employees at this level. You need to keep the warehouse open. You need to keep the power on. Okay. Make a list of all the things that you need to do to operate, and we will freeze all of your creditors and tell them they have to wait for you to operate so you can figure out a plan to get out of this.
Right, and they got to prove that.
And they have to prove that by the monthlies.
Yep, by the monthlies. It's a breach of fiduciary obligation, and once you get into fiduciary obligations, you've committed yourself. I mean, you've literally said, I'm in front of the camera. I'm going to speak for everything we do. In this case, I'm going to speak for everything that we do, but we didn't do anything. And so that's what complicates it. For this not to go to BK7 liquidation is like, there's no way it can't go that way. And
what's
so
left other than the buildings now?
Right, exactly. And then you have the Titan issue. You got the image issue with the consignment pieces. So this just keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And at some point, the judge is going to say, we're already in April. The deadline was the 25th. I want to know where the money's coming from to even keep the company going. You know, technically.
I'll tell you where that money's coming from, Jesse.
Yep.
It's coming from everybody with those arrearage accounts that have been forced to pay by COD every single one of their accounts. It's by every one of the people who owed Diamond money who said, I'm going to settle up and make sure I'm in the black before this whole thing goes belly up.
I have a question.
All those dealers. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
If it does go to Chapter 7, which we all think it's going to go to liquidation, right? And if it does, what happens to those people, to the accounts that didn't pay up? Does it just go poof?
No.
Well, at that point, if it goes Chapter 7, everything goes poof. So, yeah Chapter 7 is you're done.
It doesn't go.
Somebody can buy that debt.
Brian.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. Can
Brian,
somebody buy that debt? Okay.
Yeah, they can
It
buy the
does
debt.
not
Everything is
disappear.
up now.
So when
Everything will be
AENT
for sale and liquidation.
when AENT offered its, $72-85 million to buy everything, they wanted that debt as part of it. So they could then collect on that debt because they own that debt, because they own the company.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, that was your best chance. That all those $33 million that were owed, that was your best chance to have a nice, gentle, hand on your shoulder, slipping into your pocket for your wallet.
Give us an extra $100 a month or
right.
$300 a month.
Chapter 7, that's gone. You're going to get the most cutthroat sharks ever. And they're going to start at, we'll buy all 33 million at $1 million. Then the other scumbags will pop in. We'll give you 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million. It's never going to go for more than that. They're going to buy every marker that Diamond has for next to nothing. And then they're going to put every scumbag collection agency that's ever called anyone in charge of harassing you and your mother and your
everything
brother.
You own liens on shit you
your
own,
house,
like your building,
your car, your inventory.
If you're a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
There's going to be padlocks put on buildings. There's going to be warehouses that are seized. It's going to be the ugliest thing you ever saw if this goes Chapter 7.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some guardrails that some stores will be able to have. So it's not all doom and gloom. But at the end of the day, everything becomes available. The smart person, the smart businessman, and I'm not going to say who that next level person is, technically wants it to go to liquidation. Why pay 45 million when you can get it for 22 or 21 or 19 and get what you want?
What's going to happen with that second bid? Because it is just everybody's thinking right now that Universal and AdPop is going to walk away with it, and that's not for sure.
No. A couple things. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Okay, so here's the deal. We speculated on this show that there were some people at Diamond that were like, and we speculated. We might be wrong. I'm just saying what we speculated on. That there were some people at Diamond that didn't think they had a future if it went to Alliance Entertainment, and that they would have a better life and a better existence if it went to these other people who they've already been doing business with for decades.
Yeah.
And that they might get a little cushier of a job, and they might be able to keep a lot of the contacts that they had. In my opinion, if I was Universal or I was AdPop, and I just saw the bullshit that they just tried to pull with AENT and with WotC and with redacting all those contracts that they kept from AENT, they kept those same ones from Universal and AdPop.
You think so?
I don't. Why would you tell if you weren't going to tell AENT, and you're trying to get these guys, you're trying to get the buyers over here? Why would you tell them that you're fucked?
Well, I'm throwing this out there because I don't know anything, but part of me instantly goes, well, why did the middle management at Diamond want so hardcore for AdPop and Universal to win that smaller bid? It feels like they're kind of like this, more like this maybe, and they kind of, and Universal maybe knows what's going on. They're more friendly with them. They know they've known them over the years. They're like a old friend, but almost like a competitor, but an old friend type thing. And maybe that's, like you said, that's why the bid was so much lower, because they knew it. And
yeah,
it's not entirely not possible.
Yeah, I would say it's whatever.
That's just me not knowing anything and me thinking listen, I'm the guy that comes from listen, I used to be on the streets and dealing with the drug dealers and stuff, and my head instantly goes, somebody's trying to fuck somebody over here. You know what I mean?
Well, I think AENT is trying to get some money out of this.
Sure.
They easily could have got with their distribution. WotC would fucking love to sell through them with their distribution.
Yeah,
Would love it. They would sign a contract the next day with them.
Right.
This is kind of
no, hold on, Emmet. Can I freeze you on that?
Sure.
Who's Watsy's biggest seller? MJ Holdings.
MJ Holdings, who's been fucking up.
Right, but however, they still have the relationship. If you were MJ Holdings and you saw these young whippersnappers, AENT, coming to the gates, and they already have the same Walmart contracts in a better part of the store, wouldn't you also go, Watsy, if you allow Alliance to get bought by these guys and compete with us, we are going to reduce our orders with you, or whatever, you would put some pressure on Watsy. You mean you're going to reduce
the ones you're selling out the back door?
Right.
Yes, exactly. You're going to cost us money out the back door, Watsy, if you allow Alliance to come in.
Here's something very interesting also. Wasn't the Alliance, at the same time as the retraction, did Alliance fire one of their CEOs or something? Does that make...
I read that, and I don't know anything about it, and it was either fired or he resigned.
He resigned. Yes,
I heard it both ways, but I heard it was one of those resign or you're fired things.
Yeah.
Hey, look, here's the thing. When the Monday that it got announced that Alliance was buying, Alliance's stock was at $4 a share. At the end of the day, when we had Bruce Ogilvie on this show, it was $4.40 a share.
Yep.
About a month ago, it was down in the 2.8 cents a share, $2.80 a share. It's now over $3 a share, but that's still under the $4 that they were at when they basically, this was not as smooth a transition as I thought it was from the standpoint of the comic industry to AENT elevating us. I think a lot of people in the financial markets looked at AENT buying this dog shit comic book distribution company, and they didn't see it, and they didn't back it by buying stock.
Yeah, shout out to Wilbert, who drops a $4.99 super chat. He says, "You ain't wrong, Brian. Trust those street smarts." Hey, man.
There you go. Yeah.
Gotta trust your gut.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it really, this is a weird situation, because if you have a good lawyer, and I'm not saying those lawyers aren't good, your lawyer knows everything after 48 hours, 72 hours, maybe 5 weeks. And they've just dug in and said, tell me about this account. Don't tell me about all your accounts at once. Let's go over this account first. And now let's go over to the next account. What's going on? I see you have all this Image stock here. I see you have all this Titan stock here. I see you have all this Diamond stock here. How much of that value is what we're getting? At that point, they need to be, it should have been disclosed. Oh, that isn't our product. That's consignment product. That needs to go back to the dealers, the publishers. Those publishers, I'm trying to figure out why they did not request their stock back when bankruptcy was declared, and they got that letter giving them a certain amount of time to recoup that product before it became part of the bankruptcy. So there's a lot of things going on here that traditionally don't happen. And I'm going to be very interested when the book is written on this bankruptcy, on how much stuff was done wrong on both sides. And, you know, I understand the words they're using. They're using breach of contract, fraud, aiding and abetting, negligence, misrepresentation, breach of goodwill, fair dealings. That's common. That's in any time there's a lawsuit, those words are common. Those are the words that are used. Which words are they actually focused on? That's going to be the interesting part, because the misrepresentation is probably the biggest part of the asset. So if they said they had Alliance assets, they had Titan assets, they had Image assets, and they had dynamite assets. That's a lot of assets to say you have when you actually don't have them.
So Alliance now is suing for their earnest money back, and also whatever fees and expenses they had to pay for, whenever the judge would, the processing of the whenever the judge would, say, oh, we got to wait a month. Okay, that means that they got to spend, hundreds of thousands of more dollars in attorney's fees and, whatever. So they'll be suing to get all that back, and I don't know what's going to happen there, but that's a lot of money.
I mean, honestly, if what they say is true in their court filings, they probably earn it. They probably deserve it.
Yeah. They'll get interest on their 8.5 million back. Definitely, they'll get interest.
It's kind of like somebody, how it's an old trope. You have one thing in your hand, you put it behind your back, and then they're like, well, show me what's in your hand. See, nothing. There's nothing in this hand. Well, show me your other hand. See, there's nothing. You pull that shit with lawyers, and they will fuck you.
There's been $818,000 spent to consultants and $770,000 spent to the law firm.
Yep. Yeah, wow. And that's 8.5 million that wasn't in AENT's account. They just had a huge record day. Maybe they could use that money for some more stuff, and when you go in, you don't go in and you bid on something. You say, here's $72 million. Wow, I wonder how we're going to make our money back. You have a plan, and you're going to the people you're getting your money from, and you're saying, here's our plan for the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, and this is what the returns going to look like in 3 years. But when you take out 25% just on one thing, Alliance, and you're down to 75%, it's a losing factor, because the 33 million is a incorrect number, and the monthly should show that, hey, 2.5 million in back pay has been paid back out of that 3.33 million. So they might be thinking they're getting $33 million in debt that they're then collect on. It might be down to 21 million by the time they get it.
Right. But the better point is they put in that 8.5 as a down payment on the 85 that they were willing to pay for this company. During that time, if that 2 million was collected, Jesse, or 2.8 or whatever, plus all of the COD tags for the 3-4 months since this thing started, they want to know where that money went, and that's what those monthlies are for. Yep. How much of all that money do you have left? Oh, wait, you figured out that, wait a second, you and all of the management staff decided to take a private jet to New York and stayed at a really fancy hotel for this last lawyer meeting? Wait a second, how much did that cost? And how much of that 2 million did you burn on stupid shit like that?
Right. Well, and it's almost saying that you didn't do your budgets every month. So
right.
You didn't do your budgets, because if you did your budgets, that's all you have to put on the form. The form is a very easy form.
But it would be different, Jesse, if Diamond hadn't treated every retailer like this for the last decade. When retailers were like, hey, Diamond, that $26 you charged me for that UPS small box with one item in it? Can you show me the bill for that $26 box that you charged me $26 for? Oh, wait, UPS only charged you $5 and you collected $20 off of that mistake purchase?
Right.
You
can't show us that.
There was another interesting thing that was brought up that Heidi McDonald brought up in one of her write-ups on it, and that is that the tariffs, that's a bunch of extra money that's being thrown in there on this. Toys, the money on tariffs for toys and collectibles, I guess, is high. Is that right? Am I wrong about that?
That wouldn't be part of this. No, because you're talking about stuff that hasn't even hit yet, and if it has hit, it hit this month. So January, February, March, that would have nothing to do with anything really. So, and if you look at her last article, the one she just did, she actually says tariffs weren't part of this. So.
Okay.
It's the one she just wrote. So, yeah, it's tariffs. You got to be careful on tariffs. It's like there is a company, I'm not going to mention them in the comic book world, that was upcharging, and adding tariffs to product they already had in stock. But that was crazy. They hadn't even received anything yet, but they were already charging tariffs on stuff they had in stock. Obviously, they switched that a couple of
they raised the price. They always raise the price of gas while it's in the ground.
Right.
It's not the pump still has the gas there. The gas price goes up.
Yep.
Because the barrels are going up. It's the cost of replacement. It's like Magic and Pokemon are so volatile. Well, Pokemon mostly right now, that the prices of the boxes go up because we can't get them, and the cost from the distributors is going up, not because of tariffs, because simple supply and demand.
Yeah, supply and demand.
I'll sidebar real quick about that. So the weeks before I came over here, all my Pokemon people were like, "Hey, Team Rocket comes out in Japan.
Yeah.
The day after you land, you have to get every pack you can." I have been to 5 different Pokemon centers. I've been to 15 different card shops. I have found a total of 5 packs of the new Team Rocket set. But those packs only cost, because I got them at the Pokemon Center, they only cost $1.80 a pack, or I'm sorry, 180 yen, which is like $1.20 a pack. Okay. But I'd buy as many as I could find. Can't find them anywhere. And this is where they make them. They print them here.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, what a retailer has to say, how does this affect their daily business? To most, it doesn't, right? So the people that doesn't affect, you don't really order anything from Diamond other than Dynamite and a couple more titles. This doesn't really affect you. The ones that it does affect, you need to figure out how to make it not affect you, like everybody else, basically. This is chatter. It's good chatter, but as a retailer, you have a lot of ways to get your product. You have several platforms to sell on. If you have good faith and good ethics, and you can work with other comic book stores or other dealers, you can go through those routes. You got to do the work, though. You can't sit there and hope everything's going to walk into your door, whether it be a customer or whether it be product.
A lot of people didn't use I say this, but I'm sure all of us have the reordering the back stock at Diamond. Like, I don't know if other people didn't know or they just didn't care to buy some of it, but that was my love of Diamond. Like it was real crappy sometimes on the shipment and all that stuff. But man, I could order books that were all the way back to 2004, 10-year-old books I could get out of the Diamond's warehouse. I mean,
right.
Where am I getting that now? Right? There's nobody. I can barely get 2-week-old books from Lunar or
right. But Emmet, you do understand that as a business model, keeping 10-year-old stock of books to get a single unit replacement for 1,200 shops, that of which maybe only 10 to 20% of those shops would even ever touch that one piece of product, that is not a sustainable business model. If we've learned one thing, making sure.
Well, actually, I actually think that their business model their problem was they're not collecting their debt. So they were either charging people the warehouse fee, or people were saying, keep it. Like when they said, we have your thing, you have to pay us a 10% warehousing fee over a certain amount of time. They're like, oh, you want us to keep the books here? It's going to cost you a warehouse fee. If people didn't want to pay that, they're like, okay, well, you have to either come get it or pay for shipping. And they say, never mind, we don't want it. Then it was 100% profit for Diamond. Every one of those books that were left by Marvel, DC, everybody that were left there as now owned by Diamond is now, instead of making 10 or 12%, they were making 100%.
Right. But
warehouse space costs money.
It does.
Yeah. So when you go in, you pitch for a warehouse or a distributor or whatever you're doing, and I've done this a lot, is you're not looking at how much space is filled. You're looking at how much space is not filled. Right. So in this case, one of their warehouses, I believe that when they closed it, they weren't using a good port. Like 70% of their warehouse wasn't being used. So that 100% profit really didn't matter because they weren't using that space. And as a comic book store owner, you guys know that any open space is lost money.
Money, 100%.
Well, and it's not just that. And I'm using you as the example, Emmet. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus. So Emmet puts his regular order.
I know. Yeah. Throw him under the bus.
Emmet orders his regular 1,000 comics this week and decides to throw on one copy of a trade paperback from 10 years ago that's warehoused at the farthest end of the warehouse. Now that picker has to go and spend 3 or 4 minutes going down to the far end to pick out that one book, and then another 3 or 4 minutes to walk back and put it in Emmet's box with the other however many comics that Emmet got. That time also of that employee to go pick that item on the far end from 10 years ago, those are all micro fractional transactions that don't add up even at 100% profit, that don't necessarily add up to efficient warehouse, et cetera.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We've been saying it for 3 or 4 months now. As a business model, things have to change.
Dennis, how long have you had books in your warehouse?
Oh, I've got boxes, but here's the thing. I have a chronological system, which the furthest you have to walk for the oldest item is also the furthest you have to walk for some of the newest items.
Yeah. Yeah, you ever see that end of Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yeah.
That guy has the crate that's Dennis's warehouse. Yeah. What's funny is the first thing that when you work with Amazon and you walk into the warehouse, guess what they hand you? They hand you a clicker that manages how many steps you take. And then they take how many steps have you pulled to make sure you're efficient enough to work in that warehouse.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's fast enough, but efficiency and all that.
Well,
so
you guys were at the retailers conference.
I used to do Fulfilled by Amazon. I did a test experiment with Fulfilled by Amazon. We sent them 1,000 items. We wanted to test it. First of all, it was a pain in the ass to send them those 1,000 items. They actually lost in a giant box of a really awesome item that we never saw. It was just dust in the wind. The money never materialized. And then after a full year, we looked at how many sales we made, and they basically said, by the way, this will be your bill coming January 1st. What would you like us to do? And we said, ship it back to us, because the bill was not worth what the garbage was that we sent them, and then the amount of money we made. And they sent it all back. And then about 30 to 40% of the shit they sent back got damaged, either at their warehouse or whatever. And literally, I'm thinking of this entire situation right now, and I'm pretty sure that's probably what the entire comic industry looked at Diamond storing all their merchandise was. I bet you the ones that asked for the product back received the most mangled piece of shit product they could have ever received and said, you know what, this isn't worth it. Let's try Lunar or Penguin. The ones that said keep it was more of an albatross around Diamond's neck than it was anything else. There's just so many different factors to look at this, but either way, the only way I look at this is clearly this business model does not work as awesome as everybody thinks it does, or people would not be lined up to get the fuck out of the bidding process.
Yeah.
Well, Diamond's process wasn't great, but doesn't mean that their business model, but the pieces are pretty good. I mean, if I had the money, I would take a shot at it.
I just don't think they evolved fast enough.
No.
And that could be technology wise, people wise, that they might not have invested enough in people, right? In shippers.
Yeah. They never got rid of people.
Yeah.
That should have been gotten rid of. Steve, I thought, had a great idea to go and sell us back stock. Like he was going to, take in collections and then sell us. Oh, I need Amazing Spider-Man 180. Does Diamond have it?
TCG player. We need a TCG player for comic books, and Diamond could have become that, but they weren't organized enough to be able to do that.
No.
Yeah.
But have you noticed that every one of these stories that Heidi and Rich have done, like the preface to every person they talk about at Diamond, so-and-so who's worked at Diamond for over 18 years, so-and-so who has worked for Diamond for over 20 years, so-and-so, and it's just like, I'm seeing a trend here.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a trend here.
Retention is a killer, or it's the greatest thing in the world, right?
Yeah. At some points, it's great. They're loyal. They're efficient, but are they innovative? Are they coming up with the next new idea that's going to push your company to the stratosphere and keep your company fresh and invigorated? Not necessarily all the time.
Right. Yeah. I would like to see what their rate was on retailers. What was the highest point in retailers logging into Diamond Daily, and what the lowest point was, right? What's that hand for
every single day? Every day morning and every day night.
So what do we see?
You never knew then they were going to drop a sale.
What do we see happening? We see a liquidation sale happening, right? I mean, that's what most people are thinking is going to happen. You can never guess correctly on this, by the way, you guys. I feel like we've tried to guess correctly in the past, and we've hit on some. We're way off on others. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think what's going to happen is I personally think if you were Universal and AdPop and you just saw the fuckery that happened over there with AENT, and that you thought you had a nice little slipstream into it and you got denied on that. If you were in at 65 and you got beat at 85 and the 85 bidder just left because close to $20 million was missing from what they thought they were going to get, and you were exactly 20 million less than them, are you going to be like, yeah, we'll still buy? Yeah, 20 million less, totally buy it. Totally. No, I think Universal is going to try to renegotiate that 65 number for sure. And honestly, I just think that it's so delayed right now. I think the courts are going to be like, look, all you people at Diamond who haven't been doing your monthlies, who thought you were going to get a big fat bonus off of the back end of this bankruptcy, all of the shit that everybody there in Baltimore has kind of piled up on the table in front of this judge, and now this judge sees AENT back out, walk away, and be done. I think that judge is going to... It's not going to be pretty for those people, I don't think, honestly.
Right. Well, AENT didn't back out and it's done. They're suing them. So it's not done. Yeah. I understand what you're saying.
But here's the thing. I don't think there's anything the courts are going to do right now that convinces AENT to walk back to that table and put a giant pile of money in front of them.
Yeah, no. I think what's going to happen is, even if they file their paperwork, there's so many missteps here that moving this to a Chapter 7 makes sense to the courts. Again, this is in Maryland. I'm from Arizona. I know the rules and everything on bankruptcy. I'm not a bankruptcy lawyer, but I'm pretty good on those rules. I don't know what Maryland's bankruptcy court is. I don't know the judge. The judge might be a very calm and collective person and just says, hey, whatever you guys decide at the end. But it makes sense to turn it to Chapter 7, let it go to liquidation, because if you strike a deal with Universal, you better go back and strike a deal with AENT first.
Yeah.
Because AENT is going to say, why didn't you come to us first? You gave them a deal. Where's our deal?
I think here's the thing. And also, Jesse, what you don't mention in that, which goes through the back of my head, any way you look at this, Brian, Steve Jeppy just lost probably close to $20 million of profit. And more than likely, the entire deal is going to probably see 10 to 20 million in the deficit going towards the creditors, who were probably going to get paid off at 100% or a slight fraction below 100% prior to this. And now I think that if they get paid off at 50%, they'd be lucky.
Yeah, that sucks. Wow.
They would be very lucky.
I mean, that's a lot of small press publishers. That's a lot of indie publishers that were going to be whole. We're going to be made whole at some point in the near future. And I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm not trying to be an asshole about this. They just went from a potential 100% may whole agreement to a bunch of fuckers in Baltimore not filling out their paperwork, lying about contracts that they said they had that they knew they didn't. Those people all just cost this industry and the small press and the indie press close to 50% of what they were owed. That's what the takeaway needs to be.
Have you ever bought from a liquidator?
Oh, yeah.
You guys ever bought from a liquidator that looking at, right? Like anything more than like 10 cents on the dollar is insane. Like I've bought it 7 and 8 cents on the dollar for items. So like they ring up everything and then they take off 92%.
Yep.
Or 93%.
Yeah. At
that point, the store, it's like buying, you just bring your cart, they just ring up everything in the store, and then they take off 92%.
Yeah, and keep in mind, it's not, if it goes to liquidation, it's not Diamond people doing the liquidation anymore. Yeah, that goes over to a whole new company.
It's a company, it's a liquidation company.
Yeah, they have no idea what they're selling. They just want to
Exactly. Yep. They'll treat the coffee maker in the break room the same as they'll treat a 1 in 1,000 variant sitting in a box somewhere.
Yeah. So what we hope is that somehow it stays in Chapter 11 and this evens out. If it doesn't, it goes to Chapter 7, liquidation, and it's done. And then everybody moves forward. I know what the question in the chat room is that we have not answered, and I don't even know if we want to talk about it because we've talked about it so much. And I'm going to leave that up to you guys. Do we want to talk about Dynamite, or is this something that's not even worth talking about anymore?
I think from what it feels like, I feel like Nikki has hopefully found something that he's got working on some of their end. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that's what he's figured out.
Here's the way I look at right now that situation. I kind of look at Nikki as Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic. There was room on that door. He could have easily gotten on that door with, what's her name, Rose. Okay? And all he had to do was figure out how to get on that door. But he's just been hanging on the side of that door so long, and he is frozen through all of this, that I honestly think that at some point the industry is just going to pry his fingers off the edge of that door and let him sink to the bottom.
Well, I mean, if he wants to take on investors, I'm 1,000% sure there's plenty of people that want to invest in Dynamite. He's got some great licenses. He's done some great work in the past. I mean, I don't think it'll go away as long as he wants to take on investors, but I don't know how bad this is going to hurt him.
I don't think he wants to drop ship. I will tell you that. I don't think Nikki is a drop shipping businessman. I think he's a creator and needs someone to distribute his book. So whether it be Lunar, Diamond, UCS, Universal, whoever it is, he will find a home. Sometimes, by the way, the only thing she had to do, Dennis, was just lift him on there. Just put her arms underneath, lift him up, just to clarify that. But sometimes the worst case scenario has to happen for someone to say, "Oh, I'm ready for the leap," because there's no jump left. It's now this leap, and I think
every
I think that's where it happens. I think he's in a day by day. He's probably not even reading the tea leaves right now. He's probably just trying to figure out how to get his lessons out.
Bryan, if you could shed some light on this, because I don't have this frame of reference, but every addiction recovery story I've ever heard starts with the moment somebody hit rock bottom. You never understand how to crawl out until you feel that you've hit the rock bottom. Nikki, brother, I think you need to understand a lot of people see you at rock bottom right now. And I'm one of those guys. And I want to see you recover. I want to see you have your moment of sobriety here. That's just what I see. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I think that I don't think it's all like Nikki or Dynamite's fault. I think that there's probably some fault in every bad deal that goes awry or every situation. But I feel like for the most part, people love like Emmet. I believe Emmet said people love the IPs that are there, and they love Dynamite. Dynamite's been a staple, and Dynamite means a lot. And it means a lot to comic people. So I think that that's a big part about it, and people are willing to support Dynamite. They're willing to support Nikki too.
No, I understand, and I say it as a joke, but it's more truth than fiction. Does the industry need 26 copies of Vampirella #3?
No.
Does Dynamite have a future with 4 copies of Vampirella #3 at Lunar?
Yes.
Possibly.
I would hope so.
Does Dynamite have a path to success with 4 copies of Vampirella #3 at Lunar rather than hanging on the side of the diamond door until you freeze to death?
Great point. I agree.
I'm not trying to be a dick, but what I'm saying is there were options. There were options in January. There were options in February. There were options in March. We're at the end of April right now. There's no more options that.
But here's the question: were there options? We don't know that. We don't know that. You know. I think that you're right. I think that that's just not with Dynamite though. That's with the whole ball game. They're gonna publishers are gonna have to realize what the variant cover game is now, what it means now, how it can affect your brand now. It's totally different than what it was 5-10 years ago. You know. And I think that it's not just Dynamite that has to realize that they have to do that. It's many brands. And I think even the top publishers need to realize that, you know, the variant game is not something to fuck around with. It could really hurt the industry and individual brands in a major way. So it you know, but here's the other thing. We all know that, you know, a lot of the guys in this industry that have been here for a while, they're built on that old school thing of volume. You know, more print run means if we have a bigger print run, that means we're doing better. And I don't know if that's the case anymore. I don't think personally that's the case anymore.
Bryan, I want to sidebar here. I'm in Japan right now. I'm in Surabayashi. I don't know how to pronounce it. There's a Lawson's, there's a Family Mart, and there's 2 7-Elevens within 5 blocks of this hotel that I'm in. Every single one of those 7-Elevens, do you know what they have in the front, right up by the front?
What? Manga?
The newest copy of One Piece, the newest copy of Naruto. All of them are $9.90, the equivalent of the $9.99 price point. I want to say they were like 900 to 1,100 yen. Those are all sitting right when you walk into the store and out of the store.
Yep.
There's at least 20 different manga. There is a promotion in every restaurant that we've gone to for kids. What's that name of that anime? Detective somebody. Detective Conan.
Old school. Yeah.
McDonald's has a Detective Conan. 7-Eleven. Detective Conan. We went to a ramen place. Detective Conan is everywhere over here. This is our genre in America. Okay? They have it every single place you look is comic books and manga and anime. We have Thunderbolts coming out this weekend. We have Free Comic Book Day. We have Mark Spears blowing up. We have Absolute Batman. We have Ultimate Spider-Man. Whatever we have going on, you can only find it in 1,200 stores.
If you're lucky.
And if you're lucky. And I can find the new One Piece at 5 different goddamn convenience stores within 5 blocks of my hotel at midnight. At midnight, Brian. I don't even know how many places are at noon. But at midnight, I could buy One Piece in 5 different places, 5 blocks from this hotel.
Yeah.
American comics are nowhere near this place's level.
Yep. Yeah. It's true. There's no doubt about that. It's just
So I think a couple of things to go on this. There is a way just to do 4 covers for Lunar or Penguin, and then there's another way to direct sell those other covers if you wanted to, and that's an easy platform to do. You can't think, it's the old
Brian Polito.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's the old green sock rule, right? If you don't know, the green sock rule came out in the 70s. Every year at the end of Christmas, you would get stuck with about 300 green socks. And so what the companies would do is in January, February, and March, they would tell all their stores, take all the black and brown socks off the floor and put them in the back. And so if someone would come in, they'd be looking at the socks and they'd say, "You only got green socks. Where's the black and brown socks?" Well, and then go back and get those black and brown. How many do you need? I need 6. Boom, boom, boom. And when you came out, that person would have 2 or 3 green socks in their hands because they would get antsy and they go, "I got to buy something," right? And that's called the green sock rule. And I think you have to be innovative like that. So Nicky has to look at, how do I advance my company, still do what I want to do, but kind of comply with what that distributor is saying? Listen, I don't have the space for 37 covers. I have the space for 4 covers. Give me those 4 covers. You do whatever you have to do with the rest. Right?
And you can do 37 more books, though. You just, instead of having them all be the same book, you just do 4 until you get to 37. You just need to pay a writer.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's already, Vampirella versus Red Sonja.
Paying writers? Is that really a business model that's happening in the industry right now?
Well, they should be getting better stories. That always sells a book. Nobody was buying Batman. Absolute Batman comes out and it's sold, 300,000 copies. It's not because it was a new book. It's because it was good.
Well, here's to Sugu on to the next one. Next topic. I think that this just continues to show the disconnect. There's just this very large disconnect in what the industry thinks and what the buyer thinks. And we've talked about this last week where Rob Liefeld came out on his podcast, Observations, and basically said that Marvel needs to let go of the guys at the top of the game, the Buckleys, the Bogarts, the Gabriels. He says they got to go, start over. Whatever they're doing over there, it's not working. X-Men is horrible. There's no reason that X-Men should not be just a killer book over there, and there's big problems, and all the head guys at Marvel need to go. So very interesting that a week later, Tom Brevoort on his Substack article where he was getting questions asked to him by people that read his Substack, somebody asked him, is there anything we can expect or anticipate for Cloak and Dagger in the next year? It feels like they have never been more popular than they are right now, thanks to Marvel Rivals. And the answer that he gave was unreal. And I want to give a quick shout out to our boy Swag for his latest video. And we're going to just play a little part of this because he said it so well. Here we go.
We'll revisit that comment in a section, but let me scroll down to the main point and the crux of what he said here, and let's break it down. Tom Brevoort's comments about Marvel Rivals came in response to a fan asking whether the character's Cloak and Dagger's appearance in game would be a gateway to a renewed attention on the heroic duo in the comics. Feels like they've never been more popular than they are right now, the fan wrote. In turn, Brevoort offered this response. I tell you, Joe, I tend to think that popularity in Marvel Rivals likely has more to do with play mechanics than it does the characters themselves, which is to say that I haven't seen any major correlation between popularity in the game and a rise of interest in the character in print, outside of maybe one or two outliers. That said, we are planning to do something with Cloak and Dagger in the near future so that potential audience will have something to take a look at.
Disconnect. And what I mean by disconnect, Swag put it in such a great way. This is what I mean by disconnect.
I'm sorry. Did a Marvel editor literally just say a major correlation between popularity in the game and a rise of interest in the character in print? I mean, has this guy heard of this character right here? It's a character called Jeff the Land Shark. I mean, what more example of a rise in popularity of a character do you need other than this lovable pet shark? I mean, it's crazy that this person would actually think that this game has had no impact in the rise in popularity of characters when, I mean, just think about it. How many times have we made videos on this channel already? Like the Malice costume. We've talked about Galactabooks moving out there in the secondary market. We've talked about Psylocke. We've talked about Peach Momoko. We talked about the Marvel Rivals J. Scott Campbell covers. For crying out loud. I mean, like, there's been so many examples of sales moving out there in the secondary market, and that's not even talking about, all of the Marvel Rivals #1 issues that sold out there. I mean, if you go over to eBay, just look at this. I mean, look at how many books are selling in relation to Marvel Rivals.
Disconnect, ladies and gentlemen. That is a perfect example of it.
The only way that story could have been any better and more indicative of what I was talking about earlier, if it said, Tom Brevoort, 20-year veteran at Marvel Comics.
Yes, totally. What that makes, like, if ever there was a clear sign of disconnect, it's this. And here's the best part about this. What have we been kind of complaining about this whole Marvel Rivals thing? That we see it blowing up over here, and we keep saying, Marvel, what are you doing? Get in on this. Start making something. Start using this to put spinner racks in 7-Eleven. Start using this to put spinner racks at GameStops. What are you doing? And then Tom Brevoort comes out and says, we aren't worried about it. There's really no connection between sales of print and the game.
The land shark because he can bite a bunch of people and spit them out over here.
Yeah, like, what do you...
Yeah.
So one day I was working on a sales floor, and I was working with this guy was in his 70s. And I'm a very competitive person, but I'm very aggressive. And I said, I'm going to let him have the next customer, even though I've had the last 3 customers and done very well. And he's helping this rapper. And this rapper wants to try on this Timberland boot, the famous yellow boot with the metal tip, T-Land 2100, whatever it's called. And the guy stands up and he looks in the mirror and keeps in mind the guy's in his 70s. He goes, holy cow, these are tight. And the guy gets up and he goes, I'll go get you a bigger size. I'll be right back. So do you understand what the guy was saying? These are tight. These are awesome. These look hip. These are hot. But this guy's running in the back to get him another size, right? So you have to be up with everything, not just what's going on with Marvel Rivals. You got to be hip with words and looks and dress and hats and shoes and everything. And so if he's out of touch with this, what else is he out of touch in?
I remember there was a topic. There was a topic, I want to say like a week or two ago, where we were talking about something at Marvel, and somebody at Marvel said something, and we're like, how do they not know that this is going on over here? I think Marvel might just be living in such an echo chamber of their own making that Liefeld might be right in some regards. Maybe they don't see this other stuff happening. Maybe they don't see an industry moving around them because they're very happy living in that one bubble where they live. And
here's the problem with what you just said there, Dennis. You said Liefeld might be right in some regards. Liefeld is right all the time. All the time. He is right. I haven't seen him not be right in things that he's said. I know people get mad at this and that, and sometimes they get mad at his, he's a little bit over the top, but he's been right on everything he said. I don't see him being wrong on any of this stuff.
Yeah, Liefeld is not a guy that before he does his show, he does what I do. He's writing down everything first, looking at. He's not a guy that just says, "Oh, turn this on. Let me start talking about Marvel and Bible." No, he's in.
Let me explain something though. So for 30 years that I've been living in Detroit, in the Detroit area, 35 years, I have watched Barry Sanders live, Calvin Johnson, Matt Stafford, and every time we turn up a losing year, I say, fire everybody, including the janitors. And then finally, 2 seasons ago, they didn't fire everybody, including the janitors. They just hired enough people and enough competent people that it gave us 2 really great runs at the playoffs with Dan and, the whole team that he put around himself. And some corrupt officials that threw the games so that certain teams could get to the Super Bowl. However, it doesn't require firing everybody, including the janitors. It's a slow pace of pain and misery for 35 years until you finally get the right pieces in place at the right time. And I think Marvel's just in that spot right now where they might not have the right people in place at the right time with the right situation with having Marvel Rivals. And maybe they just need to get those pieces in place to make Marvel Rivals a priority and to make 7-Elevens a priority and to make movies a priority. There's a whole bunch of levels of priority that need to happen, and it's not happening at Disney and it's not happening at Marvel.
One of the things that blows me absolutely away is why, they do these silly facsimiles that they're putting out, right? We're going to print every black suit Spider-Man appearance. Stupid. What a waste. Half those things don't sell, but I'll tell you what would sell. You could reprint facsimiles of every first appearance of these skins that these kids go crazy for. The Malice skin. You know what I mean? The different Psylocke skins. They have first appearances in the game. There's a little thing you can hit. There's a little thing you can hit in the game that says, here's where this skin first appeared, and here's where they first appeared in this form, and this and that. And they should be making those in facsimiles and then saying to these great up-and-coming new artists, hey, we want new covers on these in the form of these. Do it like the design of the Marvel Rivals. That would be crazy. And nobody's doing that.
I can back you up on that, Brian, because the week before I left for Japan, I had 2 separate human beings that had no right whatsoever to be walking into a comic book store at my store in the mall. And both of them asked for Spectacular Spider-Man 64.
There you go.
They knew the number. And I'm telling you what, they had never seen a Spectacular Spider-Man in their lives. They were Cloak and Dagger fans because of the video game, and they wanted to own Spectacular Spider-Man number 64 because that skin said that
is their first appearance. Yeah, first appearance of Jeff the Land Shark, reprinted with a Marvel Rivals cover on there. First appearance of the Malice skin, reprinted with a Marvel Rivals cover on there. You could just keep going. The first appearance of the Psylocke Momoko skin that everybody's crazy about, throw that in there. You know, it's nuts the amount of cool facsimiles they could do. Where we actually say, okay, this is smart to do a facsimile on this. 90% of the other facsimiles they do, there's no rhyme or reason to it on there. It's unreal to me.
No, just that they committed to it. They're like, oh, every black suit cover. You know, like you said, man, that's like a lazy marketing thing.
I think it's 257 that has that Puma cover. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I've seen that cover in every dollar box I have ever dug for the last 30 years. Why are you making a $3.99 facsimile of that?
Right. But here's the problem with this. I've listened to all three of you say it. Here's the problem. You know whose fault it is? The retailers. Stop buying the shit. If you stop buying the shit, they won't make any more shit. And that's what happens. The retailers buy it. They don't care if it sits on the retailer's shelf.
They've built in the percentage incentive. If I don't buy it, they're going to cut my percentage. Yep. And I need my percentage. So I have to buy a certain amount. So do I buy extra of the stuff I think is a little better, or do I buy a little bit of everything? It's constantly, they make our job way harder than it should be.
Right, exactly. But I think it starts at the retailers. If the retailers don't want it, don't buy it, and don't chase it.
Hey, Brian. When was the last time you cared about the price of drugs?
Other than cannabis 20 years ago.
Yeah. Guess what? I don't give a shit what Marvel, what DC does with their pricing, with their whatever. I'm new comic free for 7 years, baby. I'm more than happy to let you guys all complain about the price because I'm clean.
Yeah.
Clean and sober.
I get that.
I don't think so. I think someone had a new issue of a book a couple 3 weeks ago. And I also know
man,
someone
I gave up cocaine. I gave up cocaine.
Preview magazines. Is that not considered a new product? Oh, but you're clean.
Listen to me.
Phase is not admitting what you're doing and saying the opposite.
Let me finish my sentence. I gave up cocaine. I just like to smell it every once in a while.
There you go.
Oh man. All right. Well, we got a quick show tonight. Dennis is over in Japan for his last day. He's got one last day of buying going on. We've been really busy over here. But what I do want to talk about.
I want to ask Dennis real fast before we go to this subject. How many Eric Hipple cards do you have?
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
You don't know who Eric Hipple is? The greatest Detroit quarterback of all time.
Yeah, no, I have. I don't have any of my cards sorted that way, dude.
Okay.
Yeah. But hold on, I do have these cards right here. These are Mobile Suit Gundam. Every one of these cards has a QR code on the back hidden that when you play a certain video game over here, you get to have this Gundam with this power and ability in the game. And when the kids they collect the cards, but when they already have the card and they get it in the game, they just leave it around the arcade. These are all free. I can get $1 a piece for these in the U.S. easy.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Emmet.
Did Eric Hipple marry a woman that was like to a chocolate like a huge chocolate company? Like she was heiress to this huge chocolate company?
That's too much information for me.
And he lived in. I think my sister was friends with them.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I remember her going over the Hipples, and he had played in the NFL. Yeah. Like I was just a kid. I was like 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah. What's funny about Eric Hipple, the reason why I bring up Eric Hipple, if you look at the greatest hits on quarterbacks of all time, 90% are on Eric Hipple. So,
really cool event that happened this last weekend that we're going to really get into tomorrow night on the Wednesday night review show. The Mark Spears signing event at Huntsville Comic Con in Alabama. But we'd be remiss not to talk about with Jesse, who also made the trip over there. Got some really good pictures here with our boy Leg and Mark, and then with the whole crew out at dinner. When was this, Jesse? This was Saturday night?
This was Saturday night. That is his family. That's his son, his wife Melissa. That's at the main event. And I don't think it's actually called the Huntsville Comic Con. I think it's the Mark Spears Comic Con is how it kind of happened. This gentleman was tattooing. So Mark was drawing, and then that guy's then have that as a tattoo on his hand. So that was very, very interesting. Very cool moment. His very first tattoo signature.
That's sweet. That's very cool, man. Yeah, William Shatner.
Yeah, it was a very interesting con because from the outside, Clutch and Drew, from the outside looking in, you see this line of about 30 people. They're very anxious to get Mark Spears' autograph. I'm sitting with him and I'm looking at this line and I'm like, this line is never ending. And I did not realize that the extra line was actually outside in the hallway that went down forever. And it was a great buzz. Everybody had fun. Melissa, his wife, was taking part in it. His kids were taking part in it. The Beyond Wednesday crew was taking part of it. I had driven 9 hours just to hang out. I didn't bring anything to sign. I just wanted to hang out with the guy and see this new dynasty begin. It's one thing to sell on Kickstarters and come on Beyond Wednesday and talk and other shows. But the reality is when you're in front of customers for the first time and each customer has this great story to tell, it was simply exciting. And to think it's just getting started.
The only thing that disappointed me about this was we talked about it on this show and we talked about it another time. He should have used the ticket system by hour so that all of those people didn't waste their entire convention experience waiting in a hallway seeing nothing.
He did for the next 3 days, I believe Clutch went and got a bunch of tickets and started the ticket system. This was the first day.
This was the first day. Yeah, it was freaking
I don't like to see I just don't like to see a fan's experience ruined by waiting an entire day in a line.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly. New York. That's New York Comic Con in a nutshell.
It was simply nutty. I've been going to conventions since 1982. I've gone to 39 San Diego Comic Cons. Maybe a Todd McFarlane line, but again, that's capped off. So you really can't say how long a Todd McFarlane line really is. But this was amazing because he wasn't really marketed. His placement wasn't very good where he was put in. It was technically one table that had to become two tables. And so, it was a very interesting. I think what happened is they pivoted almost per hour. Oh, let's do this. Okay, let's do this. They were very smart. Only one guy technically cheated as far as the line goes and the limits. But I took a picture of him. If that won't happen ever again. Congratulations to Mark.
Yeah,
couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah.
Very good shit.
And we haven't announced it yet, but I am opening up my new retail store in about 3-4 weeks, and Mark has semi-committed to be my first person to sign at the store, so we're very excited about that. We are then be using the text system, so we will be texting people so they won't have to wait in line. But I think at the end of the day, sky's the limit. He's learned a lot, and you can't learn unless you're in front of people. And I will tell you, you can see the sharks on the line versus just the comic book Mark Spirits fan. What a difference.
Yeah, big time. It's pretty crazy, that's for sure.
Yep. The one thing that I do want to talk about, unless you guys want to say anything else about Mark Spirits.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So during my drive up, it was a 9-hour drive. It took me about 14 hours because I stopped at every garage sale and yard sale. Unfortunately, in in Alabama, in Georgia, there's a lot of garage sales, right? Almost every other street, there's a garage sale. On the way back, the 9-hour drive took me 14 hours because I stopped at every Ollie's all the way down. Stopped again at every garage sale. So when you do travel, folks, stop. You never know what you're going to find. This is what I found. My favorite woman wrestler, which I can never find her action figures. I was able to find Bailey against Sasha Banks.
Oh, cool.
This was in a swap meet that I had to park in the actual forest to get into. And the first 10 rows were ducks, chickens, rabbits. And trust me, they weren't being sold as pets. And then I found a single Bailey action figure. And then my second favorite guy wrestler of all time, RVD. So I found an RVD thing. And then I found, at the end, I found a pack of Youngblood cards. Oh, full pack, not sealed, but I can shrink wrap them.
Not too shabby, man. Those old school Youngblood packs are badass.
Yep. Yeah. So I was very excited, and I'm like, "Hey, you don't have a price on this?" And he's like, "I don't know. It's a full pack." And I'm like, "Well, just tell me what price it is." And he's like, "How about $10?" I'm like, "How about $7?" And he's like, "Good to go." So $7. In the Smiley's swap meet in Macon, Georgia. Check it out. You have to find a place between trees to park. Very, very interesting. Never seen that before in my life, but it was actually fun to hang out in Macon, Georgia.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. Yep. I hear about those like sales for those type of events all over the place, where they'll have like these huge city long, flea market sales or yard sales and crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, it was $3 a table to set up, and so there was hundreds of people selling stuff. I mean, it was really, really crazy. You even had homeless people had tables trying to sell their clothes. Right? It is the most craziest thing. It was fun. It was a fun drive. Google sucks going through Alabama. I can tell you that right now, because it was a tough ride through Alabama.
Yeah. All right. Emmet, have you you decided any? Did you ever get contacted by my buddy for? No, not yet.
I didn't get the information.
Okay, I'll make sure I get that to you. You had any recent excellent buys at the store? Because I feel like every show you come on, you have some crazy buy at the store.
I had a guy leaving the country. He had a Pokemon collection. He was in a hurry. I took a glance at it. I threw $2,000 at it, and it's fucking unreal.
So if you take a glance, what is the process to get to 2,000?
What sets they're from? What year? So there was base set, fossil, and jungle. I saw plenty of the better cards. I really didn't get time to really look at the condition. They were in sleeves, the 9-pocket sleeves, which I hate. They're very bad for cards. Stop fucking using them. Put them in a sewn-in sleeves, which are much easier on the cards. Don't use those binders. The binders are bad. But this was in a binder. It was very stuffed. He had some sets that I had never gotten in before, which was Neo Genesis and Gym Challenge, and they were all first edition. Then he had a bunch of bins of toys, and he's like, I don't even care what I get for the toys because I just want to sell the cards and you can have the rest. So in the toy box was a DVD with a mini manga with a promo card, and the only way you could get that promo card was by buying this DVD, and that DVD sells for $1,200 on eBay.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we had like a shiny Gyarados, which can be as much as 11 grand if it gets a 10.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm going to do my first grading. I'm going to do it through Tag because it's the only one I can trust because a machine does it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got like over 100 cards to grade, and it could be anywhere from 20 to 50K.
Wow.
So.
And you knew this customer, or was this a walk-in?
A walk-in. Never saw him before. He'd never come and bought anything from us, and he said he was leaving the country. I said, well, leave me your information. I mean, he goes, I don't care. He says, that's very fair. He goes, I only expected to get 1,000. So,
wow.
Yeah, I guess good karma, I guess.
That's it, man.
Oh, yeah, by far. Yeah.
Treat other people well, it'll come back on you tenfold.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold on, Dennis.
Everybody real quick. Go ahead.
Wait, you're on mute.
I'm just going to show you. So I went to a place called Mandraka, which is famous for being just the vintage toy store. And you in America would recognize this as a Micronaut vehicle. But over here, it is Microman Bulk Lifter. So these stickers are all the difference it takes to make this like valuable in the US as compared to over here. But it also came with an original Microman in the original little.
Oh, nice.
So, and that's a see-through green, which is a very desirable color. And all the original stickers are on it.
That's huge.
If you can see inside of it. Yeah. So then I went to a place called Book Off, which, like I told you last week, is basically Bookman's in Arizona, but here in Japan. Now, these are region locks for 3DS, but not DS. So that's Pokemon Black and White. Okay. And then this one, get in there tight.
Yeah.
That's the original Pokemon Red, 1995 Game Freak. And that's a pretty badass. I paid $30 for that. This will play on any Game Boy.
Yeah.
So yeah, just buying some cool stuff. I don't need to capture all of Japan and bring it back. Just enough to bring enough flavor to the store to show that we're doing the work, and that's about it.
Not too shabby. That's what I like to hear. You know, your whole buying process has changed because of how everything else has changed. And, you know, you kind of explained it here that, you know, when you were there 20 years ago, it was all different how things were sold. And, you know, so.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, 5 years ago, I wasn't buying anything other than comics. I would go to a house and they'd say, we want everything gone. No, I don't want your records. No, I don't want your cassette tapes. Now it's like, I will take all you got. I bought last week, I think it was 17 cassette players and 10 VHS players. Because they they go for so much now. It is freaking crazy.
If you can get them for $5 or $10, you're making.
And people are just like, I gotta get rid. They're too bulky.
Yep.
You know, there was a dealer. I'm totally speculating, but just go with me on this, guys. There was a dealer in Huntsville, Alabama, on the other side of the convention hall that had never heard of Mark Spears. And he was selling cover Z of Vampirella #3, the negative space, so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. And he had a box of all of those variants, and he had a box of all of these other things that had never heard of Mark Spears. And that's the dichotomy. There's something going on over here, and it's the biggest thing at the show. And there's a dealer who packed up a whole bunch of boxes and said, why am I making no money at this show? Yeah. And you just want to be one guy or the other, and you every day is about picking and choosing which path you're taking in this business.
Yeah, it's okay to be wrong, but be wrong because you are stupid. Don't be wrong because you weren't smart. I mean, you only see on the program Mark Spears. Hey, why is it slow on this side? I don't know, because everybody's at Mark Spears line. The guy selling top loaders, all his top loaders had Mark Spears comics in it. And people are walking by saying, how much is the Mark Spears thing? Well, it's $10, and guess what? Because it's just basic covers, and you get this top loader with it, right? So he's selling a $3.99 book, and he's getting $6 for his $5 top loader. So the guy is just making bank, right? You just have to be smart, and you have to realize there's no excuse to have a bad con unless you're just being stupid. I mean, that's just the way it is. These guys that bring in 100 boxes and they walk out with 99 boxes and think they had a good show because they showed, it doesn't matter what the price of the other product is that you sold in that long box. You need to sell 50 of those long boxes regardless. So it is strange when you do walk a convention floor and you see that artist sitting down doing a sketch, but the guy next to him is standing up selling comics galore. And it's just Joe Smith. No one knows who Joe Smith is, but he's standing up and he's greeting everybody. And that's how you do this business. I would love to see a documentary the day before or the year before Mark Spears became a name, and how people talk to him, communicate with them, followed him on his Facebook page.
But you don't need that, Jesse. You have these Brian shows where Mark was like, yeah, I talked to 23 different publishers and all of them told me to go pound sand. And then I did a Kickstarter, and then one of my books sold for $1,000. And then I've got a line of people who are swimming around me trying to make 10% of, my name, It's you have every story he's told on this show and these other shows that Brian does. You don't need a documentary. Mark's taking us along the journey.
Yeah, it is cool to be part of that, technically that family that has grown on Beyond Wednesdays, just with everybody we've had on technically on all the channels. It's pretty cool to look at the numbers. So it's a good ride. I think we have a good ride the rest of the year, regardless of what happens to Diamond. I almost sit here the whole time saying, why does it matter?
Well, it doesn't matter anymore. I mean,
look at these sales, by the way. These are just from books that were sold at Huntsville. 850, 300, 300, 200, 250, 200, 199. I mean, these are the books. And he wasn't selling these anywhere else. You could only get them at Huntsville, or he let a few go on his Discord to his Discord group. But 800, 400, 500, 500. This is why that line was so crazy that first day. 900, 425. There was a lot of retailers that definitely showed up. There was a lot of fans that showed up too. But I'm telling you, there was a ton of retailers that showed up and got a ton of books signed and immediately put them on eBay or eBay Live or whatnot. I mean, there were so many sales on eBay Live and whatnot from the Mark Spears, Monsters, Huntsville. It was crazy. It was just never seen anything like it.
I think the question you should ask yourself is, Comic Legion, welcome to the show. The question you would ask when you see those prices, if they didn't buy those books, what would they buy? What else out there would they have spent their money with? Or are they now part of the sworn fans? Are now the Spears has those type of fans, where those sworn fans, 99.9% of their budget goes towards Chaos Comics or
Coffin
Comics. Yeah, Coffin Comics. Are those fans now dedicated to Spears product? And knowing that demographic and that genre, is it because it's horror? Is it because it's great cover art? I mean, you really have to look at all that stuff. The notion that the characters are known characters, that helps out tremendously in his sales. The Jaws one is off the hook, right? Yeah. But I would be curious on where would those folks spend that $850? If you're spending $850 on a Spears book, would you spend that on something else?
$1,300 for this one. Look at that.
$1,000. $1,300.
Yeah.
I mean, are those buy it nows or are those auctions?
These are buy it nows, but they're not.
Okay, those.
Yeah. These are buy it nows. It's crazy.
These are buy it nows.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I mean, to think that he's technically new. He's still technically in his rookie season.
Yeah.
I mean, what other artist puts out books and gets more than $300?
Not many that are new.
Very few.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of one. I mean, maybe J. Scott Campbell, if he put one out, but most of his books are $150 to $200.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the print runs. Maybe the print runs come into play there. The places that they can get it might be limited, right? He's very smart on limiting it. His Kickstarters come into play. So I think this is a great start for him. I think he's only going to get better. And I think his fans are going to come to the dance every single time. If Brian, if you can get him out to San Diego Comic-Con, sky's the limit.
Yeah, he's coming. We're going to guilt him into coming.
Well,
there's no way he's missing San Diego this year.
Yeah. And it's only like a 25-hour drive. So just fly in and capture him and bring him down and
he'll make San Diego. I don't think after seeing and having the fun that he had at Huntsville, I think he'll make San Diego. So, but we'll find out more. You guys can come hang out with us tomorrow night. We're gonna go pretty heavy into the show, as most of those guys that are on Wednesday nights with us were at the show, and it's gonna be a lot of fun talking about it.
Couple announcements.
All right.
Small announcement. So the picture behind me, most of you probably aren't familiar with it, but it's from Bear Pirate Viking Queen. My nephew wrote it, and a really great artist drew it, Mark Baravecchia. Jonathan Marks Baravecchia, actually. They're up for the Ringo Award, so if you haven't done your votes for the Ringo Award, if you can throw some up for that. Best writer, best book, best artist, whatever. I'd appreciate that. And that's the pitch.
That's awesome. Yeah, great book.
Yeah, it's a great book, and it's a lot of pages. That's why I like it. And that actually reminded me of Sea Bear Grizzly Shark. Yeah. If you ever read Sea Bear Grizzly Shark, when I started reading that, I'm like, this is Sea Bear Grizzly Shark, which was a great book put out like 10 years ago. So no, very, very good book to hype.
Yep. I will be doing 2 sales this week, you guys. I will be back on Whatnot on Thursday for the Daredevil packs. I did get some Daredevil packs in. So I'll have some Daredevil packs and I'll have some Hulk packs. So if you guys missed out on Daredevil and Hulk packs Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, we'll see you there. And then I will be, oh, by the way, the link is in the bio, and you can also find the link in the link tree. You can go, I'll put it in the live chat for everybody too. Let me go ahead and do this real quick. And I'll also be back selling Sunday night on eBay Live over at Comic Shopping Network's eBay Live account. So Thursday night and Sunday night. What is a Daredevil pack? A Daredevil pack comes out of these boxes here. And basically what Whatnot did is they worked with Marvel, and they got Marvel to agree to reprint facsimiles of major moments in Daredevil history, so that pertain to the show that's coming out. So, for example, Daredevil #1, they did a facsimile with a new Alex Maleev cover. Daredevil, first time that he met Punisher with a new artist cover. First time that, or Mayor Fisk's first appearance with a David Mack cover. And what was the other one? First appearance of Muse with Alex Maleev cover. So
so this is a mystery pack, or that's all in that pack?
No. So basically, you have the chance to get. There's 3 books in each pack, and you have a chance. Let's see here. You have a chance 1 out of every so many packs. I don't know what the odds are, but you have a chance to get a trade dress, a virgin, a prismatic foil, a gold foil, a sketch cover. So there's 4 covers, I think. So 4 different books, 3 books a pack. It's random which one you get. The cast members, there's cast member signed books. And then there's signed sketch covers. There's artist signed gold foil covers. There's books signed by D'Onofrio in here, so you have a chance to get those. I mean, we talked about this on the show the other night. I really like how Whatnot has done it, because Whatnot has teamed specifically with Marvel, and they have Marvel create books that you can't get. They're not just doing a facsimile for the first appearance of Muse. You can only get that facsimile with the first appearance of Muse with that in these packs. So I think it's a little bit different than a repack, as you would say.
And so only Whatnot dealers were able to purchase them?
Yes, only Whatnot dealers are able to purchase them. They only make 1,000 packs, and then I think they're available to Whatnot sellers for like $30 a pack, I think. And then
what was the allocation?
What do you mean allocation? How many each could get?
Could you have bought all 1,000?
Oh, no. I don't know what the allocation. I'm sure it was probably 2 boxes max. I would imagine, but I don't know. I don't know that. That's a great question. But yeah, one
how did
person
you know that
can't.
They were available for sale?
They sent out emails to every comic seller, I believe, at like months ago, or whatever. So I guess that's how most people got it. Phantasm said they sent him 4 boxes, so you can get at 4 boxes, I guess. There you go. So every person can get 4 boxes.
When you say 4 boxes, are you saying 4 boxes like you just sold us, or a box?
4 boxes like
a whole bunch of
4 boxes like I just showed you, and each box has 3 packs, 9 books in it. 9 books in each box. No, wait, 3 packs. So with 3. So there's 9 books in a box, and each box has 3 packs. There we go. 9 books, 3 packs in each box. And Phantasm says they sent them 4. So Steel Cartel's also in the chat. Steel Cartel actually had something very interesting happen that I'm gonna give him a call on the phone sometime over the next couple of days, where he went out to Alex Maleev's place in New York and did his sales with Alex Maleev signing a bunch of books. But there's an issue with that a lot of people brought up, that they're worried because one of the things that you can get in these packs are artist signed gold foil signed books that you can only get in the Whatnot pack. And if you have the artist sign that gold foil variant, it makes those books less valuable. So, you know, one of the things that came up is that maybe Whatnot needs to start saying to like start making a book that, you know, you can't go have an artist sign and say that is the big get in the pack. Does that make sense? So they have an unsigned gold foil, and then you can get signed gold foils. Well, if you take an unsigned gold foil to the artist who did that book and have them sign it, it's the same as pulling that signed gold foil out there. So Whatnot is probably going to have to make a change and said, okay, we're not going to print gold foils without a signature. So you can't take gold foils and get them signed and sell them as a gold foil, you know, that type of thing. So, but yeah, a lot of people are doing that. I saw Sean from Hell Destroyer did it with Alex Maleev. Somebody else did it with John Zhang. And I don't know if anybody did it with David Mack, but yeah, pretty interesting.
So each pack costs you $10.
I think it's $10 a pack,
$30 a box.
I'm not 100% sure. I got to look into it. If anybody knows, that's in the chat. What the buy-in was on them.
Brian, so I've got to take off, but I just want to say I have one more day in Japan. I have tomorrow morning in Japan. Then I have an 18-hour flight back to the United States. That'll be fun. And then free comic book day. I got 2 retailers on either side of me, and nobody has mentioned that free comic book day is Saturday.
Yeah. $100 for a box, so $30 a pack, Emmet. That's how much they cost.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So $100 a box. And the going rate for each pack is around $100. So retailers are making $70 profit. So anyways, that is the show tonight, you guys. Make sure to give Jesse James Comics a follow. He's on Binge Bar with Jesse James on eBay Live almost every other night, maybe every night over on eBay Live. Make sure to check out Wonder World Comics and in the Mall of Monroe if you're out there, and Dystopia. And then go check out Haven for Heroes if you're in the upstate New York area. So that being the case, we'll see you guys tomorrow right here. Be on Wednesdays for Wednesday Net Review. We're out. Peace.